Hey coaches, welcome. Third edition, I believe, maybe fourth, who knows? I'm not keeping track, I guess. Um, I wanted to go over a little bit more 2v1s, movement off the ball, but it's going to be mostly the same stuff we've been doing over the past couple weeks. Not much difference. The only difference, again, is the context. Okay, so this context will be towards the middle of the field. Um, we're going to have a little bit more combination play because we can get a little bit more risky in this area of the field. So we might open that up a little bit more. There might be a little bit more dribbling forward because, again, we can add more risk. But we can limit that too. We could also increase the amount of passing opportunities if we want more repetition on passing. So if it's something that you want more repetition on passing, I can kind of guide to help you accomplish that within these activities. And if you want something a little bit more towards dribbling to create a pass, and then once we receive a pass to dribble into space, we can accommodate that too. So just by looking, if you look at this first activity here, it's a 2v1. So there's a couple of things we can do to alter these. And I really want to focus on that. How can we alter this to make it easier to introduce repetition on different technical aspects, if that's what you're interested in, or to make it harder? Also, change the context. Okay, so even within this little activity, okay, if I were to right, currently it's targets, or sorry, end lines. So this player, it's 2v1 inside the grid. They can use this third player in support. Okay, otherwise it's 2v1 inside the grid, and then dribble across the end line. So there's all sorts of stuff we can use to make this easier for the attacking team or more challenging for the attacking team. We can also introduce more repetition for passing or more repetition of taking our touch into that space and dribbling, depending on what you're wanting to get out of it. So even if we take a look at this activity right here, if we remove this player from support, okay, they just play the ball in, all of a sudden it's a simple 2v1. That's more challenging than having that player in support. For this defender, it's much more challenging. For the attack, it's much easier to accomplish, right? So we might get more repetition of passing and receiving. If it's hard, okay, for these two to accomplish this goal, then we might want to keep this player in. If it's easy for them to accomplish this goal, we can take this player out. So we can change the complexity of it by doing that, right? This would emulate, let's say, a 2 on the outside back, maybe a central back here, and let's say a 6 in this space, a central midfielder or defensive center midfielder. Okay, so that's what we're replicating here. This would be a center back and maybe a 6 and an 8, and then the opposite over here, a 3, and maybe a center back, and then the other 6, or the 6, sorry. The other things we can do is we can always change the space if we need to make it bigger, right? That would make it, again, more challenging for the defender, easier for the attackers, right? So if we're having trouble with time and space on the attack, if we're having trouble completing the task, make it a little bit bigger. That's something else we can do to identify or to fix the challenging aspect of it. The other thing we can do is if we want this player if we want more repetition on passing and receiving, we can put a goal at the end here, or a goal at the end here, or maybe a goal in the middle, a small sided goal. And any space you got, can you pass into that with some pace, right? And so then we're working on accuracy of pass, pace of pass. That's just more repetition of passing and receiving. Inside of the foot, heel down, toe up. Right. The other thing you can do is maybe you've got a lot of players and you want to cycle them through, but they're not getting enough repetition. Maybe we could put 2 players out here, ball starts with 1, and it's played into this player. So now all of a sudden we're getting an extra repetition of pass without pressure. And then once they play it in, now we're getting the repetition of pass with pressure. Okay, so a lot of stuff we can do here. Couple things we really want to get out of this is if we dribble at a defender, what happens? If we dribble at a defender, what space does that create for our teammate? And then what does our teammate do with that space? So it's something we want to accomplish, right? And then from here, we're going just more complex. So 3v3 plus 1 neutral and a 4v4 plus 1 neutral. So if we go over to our activity here, I was playing around with this earlier. So let me take this box out of here. Essentially what we've got is we've got a 3 against 3, and then a neutral here. Okay, so if this ball is played into this player, right, what happens when they dribble at this player? If they dribble central, or if they dribble to the left a little bit, what spaces does that create? Okay, especially with this neutral here. And then where does this neutral go because of that? So if we dribble at this player a little bit to the left, notice the 2v1, or sorry, the 2v2 over here. We've got two 1v1s, okay, 2v2, all right? That's not an ideal situation for us to attack. And so the awareness of where to go and where the open player is something that from our U9s to our U17s, U19s, we just struggle to find that space. So where is the space where we are in the number superiority? Where do we have number superiority? Okay, in this aspect, we could change this here. Okay, it's a 3v2, right? So we want to stay over here somehow. We can then change this. We've got a 2v1 here, so can we attack this player? Or can we come over here and take advantage of this 2v1? And if we can do that, right, we can play the ball into here, dribble at this defender, and then a give and go or a 2v1 here, right? They can dribble or pass closer to the goal, much like our first activity. So can we find the space? Can we find the number superiority? Where's the 2v1 at? Once we have the 2v1, how do we take advantage of it? And then we can introduce a combination play. If we've got a couple players that are doing a really good job and we can challenge them, can we challenge them to get combination play? Ideally, what you'd have is you'd have this player and this player ultimately on the scoring end of these goals. Okay, that would be the goal, right? Back to the sessions. That's then play 5v5 straight up. Honestly, with a 2v1 activity at 9s and 10s, it wouldn't be a bad idea once we get to the game to continue to have a neutral in there. Okay, if we remember at 9 and 10, what we're trying to do is have as much fun as possible and learn the game within the environment we're creating. Okay, it's going to be easier for them to accomplish 2v1s if they always have number superiority somewhere rather than just the goalkeeper, because we know that that's always an option. So if we can introduce it and manufacture it, that's okay at this age. What it also does is allows us to teach a neutral player at a young age. We will use neutral players to train as we move up in ages regardless. So if we can start to teach what a neutral player is, that's really beneficial to us. All right. Second day, we have just movement off the ball. And there's really not a lot of context to this, although we can put context. If we want to put context in this, this is just space. So you're going to maybe put it in the middle of your field, okay? And this, you would actually flip around where one team's going one way, one team's going the other way, all right? Just to give you an idea, you have two teams of 4 here, right? One team is in the middle and one team is on the outside, and you've identified one player as a defender. You could do a couple of things here. You could go, let's say, 1 minute on, 1 minute off, and then rotate. Or you could say every time this defender wins the ball and plays out, they drop their penny and switch with someone else. Ultimately, it's a 3v1 keep away. When the defender wins it, they try to transition and play to somebody with space as quickly as possible. So again, can they find the open player? Once we win it, can we find the open player? Okay. Here, same idea, except now it's a transition to direction game. This is not directional. So this is not as challenging as this is being directional. So here, we would have a 4v1. So as soon as the coach plays a ball in, it's 4v1 keep away. When this player wins it, so let's say red comes over here and wins it, can they play the ball back into their space as quickly as possible? Now, when we transition, when we win the ball, we want to get as big as we can. A lot of times what you're going to have is these 3 red players all up on this line. That's not as big as we can. So as soon as we see that we're going to win the ball, can we get wide here and can we get deep here? That'd be the question we want to ask, right? So some of these questions are posed down here. Good questions, right? The other thing we want to focus on in here is passing, receiving, and body shape, right? So if this player here is playing a ball to here, can they play it to the left foot, and can that player receive with the left foot, right? And then movement off the ball. So if the defender is here cutting off this pass, this player wants to be able to receive a ball. So can we be in a position to receive a ball? And then here we're back to the more complex 4v4 plus 1, no different than our first session, but can we build on it a little bit more? Can we move off the ball as the ball is moving? Can we move? Those are some things we want to touch on this week. Okay, again, it's 2v1s mostly. We shouldn't be in a lot of 1v1 situations unless we've created them, and that's okay. So if we go back to this activity, if we go to this activity here, if we've played over here and we've brought all of red over here, so let's say this blue player right here has the ball, and we've brought all of red over here, okay, with maybe a neutral player, this isn't a bad time. Now, this could be a 2v1, but let's say this player gets sucked over too. This isn't a bad time to take advantage of a 1v1. Lots of space here too. So when we play to this person, 1v1s are good. 2v2s aren't as good. 1v1s are good. 2v1s are amazing. So if we can find 2v1s or 3v1s, obviously that's what we want to do. But in this activity, with the numbers we have, 2v1s is, we really want to see if we can find 2v1s this week. Later on at 9 and 10, we're going to try to exploit them. If we can't exploit them with quality passes this week, it's not going to be the end of the world, right? We just need to be able to find them, right? So can we teach 9s and 10s how to find the 2v1s? Our best players, we can teach maybe how to exploit with some combination play. Otherwise, we're really looking at finding them. U9, U10, Zoom tomorrow night, Monday the 7th. If you have any more questions then, let me know. Otherwise, you guys have a good week, and we will talk to you later. We'll see you on the fields.